Welcome to another video with Mr. Long, and we're going to be looking at the TListBox component that you can find in Delphi and how we can interact with it and use it in our programs. So we're first going to look at all the different properties that we can use, and then we'll go to some examples at the end of the video. So you can look at the video description to find out if you want to jump straight to the examples or if you want to see all the properties that we go through first. So first of all, what is a TListBox? Well, that is a component that you use when you want to have lots of different options. So for example, if you go to the tool palette and you go to the standard options, the standard palette, and then right there you can see there is a TListBox. So if we add it to our form, it looks almost like a memo control. If you've done a memo control, a lot of the things will be similar to a memo control. So it's basically have a whole list of options in it. And so if I go to the properties of a listbox, so for example, if I go to the items property in the object inspector, you'll see there's a little ellipse that we can click on, and that will bring this box up, and we can type in options into the string list editor, and those will be the options that appear in my list box. So once I've typed in my options, I can click on the OK button, and there we go. They will appear as different options in my list box. So there we go. So that's how you can populate your list box at design time. Now you can also do it using code. So you can listbox or LBX data. We use LBX as the prefix for list boxes. Items. Now this is, as I said, it's similar to a memo control, but not exactly. A memo has lines. This one has items. So we go to items. Add looks very similar to the memo, but it's items instead, and then in brackets you can have a string, and whatever that string is will be added to the bottom of the list box. There you can see pink has now been added as an option to the list box. So that's how you can add it when the program is running. Okay, so there we go. So now if you select an option in a list box, so let's say you select one, you pick one of the options, that means you want to choose one of those options. So let's say we picked on that one. So there is a property called the item index. Now if you remember radio groups, very similar to radio groups, the item index tells us which one is selected, not the value, but the number of the one that is selected. Now looking at that one, which one do you think that is? What number do you think that is? If you thought it's number 3, you are wrong. It's actually number 2. And why is that? Well, if you remember from radio groups, Delphi follows a particular system where the first option is normally option 0. So therefore, the second option would actually be a 1. So every option is actually whatever its position is minus 1 technically. So therefore, yellow would be a 2. And that would also mean that the last option, there are 8 options in total there. You can see there are 8 colors. The last option would be how many there are minus 1, which is number 7. So there we go. So that's how you can find out which option was selected using the item index property. So if nothing was selected, by the way, if you selected no option, if there was no blue line in the list box, the item index would be a -1. So that's how you know if nothing has been selected. Okay, so let's go further. So let's take this scenario. We've got stemp there, and I'll go and say, hey, get from the listbox.items, and then in square brackets, I put a number. So if I do that, that's going to access the item at position 1. Now remember, position 1 means the orange, the second one, because the first one, if you remember correctly, was a 0. So first, remember, if we say item 0, that will get the red because the first one starts at 0. So if we want to get a particular item and store it in a variable, we can just use the .items and then in square brackets, the position of where that value is in the list. Now, if I wanted to get the one that is selected, you see that yellow is selected. Well, how do I know which one is selected? Well, we know that the item index tells us which one is selected. So I can store that in a variable, for example, an integer variable, because it's a number, it's a position. And in this case, yellow is at position, yes, number 2, because first is 0, orange is 1, yellow is 2. Now to go get the selected item, I just have to say, go get from the listbox.items and in square bracket, whatever the value is in rSelect. So that's how you can get the value that is selected from a listbox as input. And that value in this case would be yellow. Now you could do all of this in one line if you wanted to. You could do, but just be careful. This is a common mistake that people do. If they try to do all of that in one line, they go, okay, stemp is equal to the listbox data.items and in square bracket item index. No, that is wrong. You can't just say item index, because you might have multiple list boxes. You might have a radio group as well. Which item index are you referring to? You need to be specific. So you need to say, if you're going to do it in one line, you're going to say lbx data.items, and in square bracket, you're going to refer to lbx data dot item index. So just remember, that's how you can do it in one line. If you're not too sure, rather just separate it into two like we showed above. Okay, so what are the other options available? Well, you can insert into a list box, and the insert takes in two values. It takes in an integer and a string, and the first value parameter is a position value. Where do you want to put it in the list box? And then the value is what value must go in. So for example, if I want to say insert at position 4, the color gray, that would insert at which item? The 5th item. Remember, because 0 is the first, then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 would be the 5th one. So remember that it starts at 0. So we insert at position 5, technically the position gray, because it's 0 to 4. Okay, then there's index of. What does index of do? Well, index of takes in a string value, and then it sends a value, a number of where that particular value that you just gave it is in the list box. So for example, let's say we've got this list box, and I've got index of blue. So that's going to return, think about it, what is going to return? It's going to return a 4, because blue is at position 4. Red is 0, orange is 1, yellow is 2, greens 3, blue is 4. So it sends back where it is in the list box, which is quite nifty, because if I want to search for carrot, do you know what it's going to return now? There is no carrot in my list box. It's going to return a -1. And this is very useful, because now I can do code like this. I can say, hey, if the item index of carrot equals -1, then you can say, hey, this item is not in the list. So it's a nice way to check if something is in the list or not, if you see if the index of is a -1. So that's quite useful. What are the other options available? There's a count option, which tells me how many items there are in the list box. Now, this doesn't tell me the position of the last one. It tells me numerically how many. So if I've got 8 items from 0 to 7, then the count would be 8. It doesn't tell me a 7 because it starts at 0. This actually tells me legitimately how many values there are. There are 8 items. The first one's at 0, the last one's at number 7, if that makes sense. Then, clear, that's very similar to the memo control. You can clear the memo control, clears everything in the list box in this case. And then the delete with a value which will delete at that particular position. So if you want to say delete at 4, it will delete the 5th item. Remember, because the first item's at 0. Then load from file. That means if you've got a text file and you've got data in that text file, you can then just take whatever's in that text file and put it into the list box. Very quick, very easy. Now, some things to take note of. It loads the values, but the text file must be in the same folder as your data files. So make sure that the text file is there. And very similar, there is one called save to file, which means it takes whatever's in the list box and puts it into the text file. Again, that text file will be in the same folder as the data that you have saved. So let's try a few examples. Here I've got a list box. I've already added items. So when you click on it, you can see over here, if we go to items, there we go. You can see it's already been pre-populated with a whole bunch of items there. You can see there are 7 lines being added. So that's how you can add it. And all the properties like changing its name and so on are there as well. So let's say we want to add pink to the list box. So we're going to click on the add item. We're going to take whatever's in this edit box. So we can go boom. So there we go. So add item, we're going to take whatever's in that edit box. So let's go get it into a variable. So there we go. I just did that code already for you. So we got the input. So we're going to say the list box lbx listbox data dot items dot add, and we're going to add s input. So if we do that, let's go run and see what it does. So when we click on the add item, there you can see pink has been added to the box. Okay, that's great. So let's try another option. Let's say I want to add it to the top of the list. Instead of adding it over there, I'm going to go, okay, you know, it's items.insert instead. So I'm going to say, I want to always add it to the top, .insert. And we want to insert it to the first item. The first item is always 0, and we want to put in this S input there. So there we go. So let's add the item. Boom. There you can see pink has been added now to the top. Okay, because we said insert at position 0. So let's have a look at check item. So check item, we're going to get a value via input box, and we're going to see if that item is currently in the list. And so I'm just going to say if the lbx data dot items dot index of, and then that s input. In other words, find out what the position is. Now, if it's there, it'll be a 0, a 1, a 2, or 3. If it's not there, it'll be -1. So if it's a -1, then we can show message not in list. Okay, so we can do that. Else, we can show where it is. It's at, we can say show message, it's at position. And what is that position? Well, it's that whole index of whatever that position is. So let's go copy that, and we're going to paste it there. And just remember though, that's going to return an integer. So we want to convert all of this from a int to a string so that it can fit into the show message. So this is going to tell me where it is in the list. Let's see if it runs. Might be missing a bracket or two. No, it seems to work. So check item. We're going to say, okay, is there a yellow in the list? And it says, yes, it is. It's at position 2, 0, 1, 2. There we go. But if I want to check for the number, whatever this is, definitely that's not definitely there. No, that's not in the list. So there we go. So that's how you can do the check item option. Okay, so there we go. So now let's remove an item. So if we want to remove item, we want to remove, maybe we want to select one and remove it. Okay, so we want to remove an item. So first of all, we can just delete. So delete, there we're going to get the position of the one that we want to delete. So we can going to get it via an input box, and we can then say lbx data.items.delete, and there you can see there's delete within brackets the position of the one that you want. So I'm going to say rpos. So there we go. So delete rpos. In other words, you type in 3, delete the one at position, or the fourth one, because it starts at 0. So let's run it. So we're going to remove an item. We want to remove number 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So green should disappear. There you can see green has disappeared. Okay, so if we want to get the name of the item that we want to disappear, so instead of using rpos, we want to get the name. So then we must find out where the name is. In this case, rpos is going to be, like we did before, the item index of that value. So the item index will tell me where that position is of that item. rpos equals to item index. That is the position of the item. We want to get the word yellow. It'll find its position and then delete that particular position. So this will find where is yellow in the list, and then we can delete it. So that's how you can just search for the word. So we want to remove an item. So let's say we want to remove yellow. It will then remove yellow. Now what happens if we remove something that doesn't exist in the list? It just doesn't do anything, it looks like. Okay, so there we go. So there we go. So that's what you can do. If you want to delete the selected one, oh, that's another one. If you want to delete the selected one, then the position is going to be the item index of the one. The item index is the one that is selected, not items, item index. So there we go. Item index is the one that is selected. So we want to delete that one. So the position will then, so it doesn't matter what we type in. That doesn't matter. But I'm going to select, for example, in this case, I selected nothing. So let's actually, we don't even need this. Let's take that away. I'm going to select one, indigo, and remove it, and it deletes it because it first found its item index and deleted that particular one. Now for these next ones over here, I'm actually going to go get another list box. So I'm going to come here to the standard. You see there's standard. I'm going to move all the way down to list box. There's a list box. Boom. I'm going to add a list box to, yeah. So let's add a nice little new one. So let's go give it a nice name. Let's go LB is name. So we call this LBX final. And I'm going to change the font of it so that it's a little bit bigger to see. So let's just change the font to font size 12. So it matches that particular font because I think it'll be quite small on this one. So let's go font size 12. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a new list box, LBX final. Now I'm not going to do copy all. I'm going to go straight to copy selected, then I'll come back to copy all. If I want to copy, so I want to select one and copy it over here. How do I do that? Well, that's quite easy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the one that is copied. So that is, so stemp, we're going to make a variable stemp of type string. And we want to find its position of the selected one. Pos selected. I'll make it quite long so that we can see what it is that we're looking for. So first of all, the one that is selected is going to be whatever the list box data dot item, not height, item index. Now when you're dealing with two list boxes, be careful that you're dealing with the right one. So not spos, it's rpos, sorry. Rpos selected will be the one that is selected. Then stemp is going to be lbx data dot items square bracket pos selected. So this will be the value at the selected atom. So if we select number 3, it'll go fetch at position 3 that whatever that value is and store it into S10, because that's the value that we want. As I say, we can do this in one step by just moving that part to there. It's exactly the same thing. Now that I've done that, now I can just go LBX, because this is a copy, so we're not removing it from LBX data, we're just going to add it to final. So LBX final dot items dot add stemp. So let's see if that works. So if I do that, whoop. So I go and select yellow and copy selected. Boom. And yellow's been added. Now I click on blue, copy selected, and blue's been added. Now if I add yellow again, it adds a duplicate of it. So there we go. So you can do that. Now if I select none of it, now you could do a little thing over here that if our pos selected, just do that, equals -1, then show message, please select an option, because that means they haven't selected anything else. Add the item. So you could do something like that. So therefore, if you run it and you don't select anything, it'll say, hey, please add something. So if I click copy selected, it goes list out of bounds. Why is it doing that? Because we're trying to do this part before if it's a -1, it can't go find item -1. So actually we should be doing this. So I'm going to move this to only if there is an item that is selected. And so if we want to do both those things, we're going to put this in a begin and an end. So get the one that's selected. If it's a -1, say, hey, select an option. Else go fetch that item and add it. That one will work a little bit better. That list out of bounds was trying to find position -1, which there is no -1 option. So let's go copy selected. It goes, please select an option. Now I click on green. Now green moves across or copies across. Okay, so now how do I copy all of them? I want to copy every single one into there. So there's a quick way and a short way. So let's show the long way first. Okay, so we're going to do it using a for loop, an integer. And watch how we do this. For I equals, we start at 0 until the listbox data dot count. Now this is a little trick. Count will tell me how many items there are exactly, but we're starting at position 0. So if there are 8 items, it'll go from 0 to 7. So we want to go from the count -1. Always -1 for the count if you're going to do a for loop, because it starts at 0. So although there are 8 items, the last one is at position 7. So what I want to do, all I want to do is say LBX final dot items dot add, and what are we adding? We are adding the item from LBX data dot items square bracket R. So R will be a 0. Go get position 0's value from LBX data and put it into final, and then so on and so on. So that's what a copy is going to do. So let's run it. Copy all. Boom. All of them have been copied. I'm going to show you later a quick way to even do that, even quicker than that. Okay. So the move all and the move selected is exactly the same. The only difference is with the move all, you could technically do this. I'm going to copy all that code for the copy and go to the move all, and it's exactly the same, except for once you've copied everything, you can then go, okay, once we've copied everything, now LBX data can't have that stuff, so I'm going to clear it. So get rid of what's there in LBX. So once we've moved it, once we've made a copy, then delete whatever's in LBX data because we want to move it. So move all, there we go, moved it all. First copied everything and then deleted. And then the move selected would be just exactly the same as this. I'm going to copy exactly the same, except the difference being once we have added the item, we can then say LBX data dot items dot delete at position R pos selected. So delete the item once we've copied it across. So that's what a move does. So in this case, if we want to move select, first of all, select. No, there's nothing we selected. So if I click on green and move it, put the green there and then deleted it. Okay. So I'll just do the load and the save, and then I'll show you the quick way to do this. So let's go to load, save. So what I've got in my folder over here, I've got a text file called food, and I'm going to say load, and I'm going to say it's this simple, lbx final dot, I think it's items dot load from file, and then in brackets we're going to put the food.txt file. So whatever's in the food.txt file, put it into there. So I think I put like bread and apple and carrots into that food text file. So when I click on it, boom, there you can see it's all been added. Okay, now the save to text file. So let's go save. We're going to go lbx final dot items dot save to file, and I'm going to call it new.txt. So what I'm going to do here is load the text file. Let's move everything as well. Let's move everything. Everything's all over there, and let's save it. And I should have had a message that says popped up. So let's go look at the folder here. Ooh, there's a new that's just appeared there. Let's click on it, and you can see everything from that list box is now in that new text file. Okay, so there we go. So last but not least, I'm going to show you some very quick ways of doing this copy and move very quickly with just a couple of lines of code. So watch carefully. So copy just the selected one. Very easy. Look here. This is how you can do it. You can go, okay, I took all of that code out. I'm going to say, okay, lbx final, because that's where we wanted to go, dot copy selection. And then where do you want to send it to? We want to send it to lbx data. No, that's actually correct. That's not wrong. I must make lbx data dot copy selection, and then this is the destination. It's lbx final, just like that. You just say send it to this list box. So whatever is selected, copy it to that. That's literally the copy select. Watch it. Look how cool this is. So click on green, copy selected, it copied it. Indigo, copy selected. There we go. It's just doing that one line of code. And then the move selected is even easier. So move selected, it's exact the same thing. We want to lbx data dot move selection. Where do we want to move it? To lbx final. So that will do a move. So it'll take it away from the one that we are selected. So green, go and move selected, and the green's moved across. There we go. Easy. But what about the copy all? Well, that's easy as well. Watch it. Watch how you can do it. There's a property in a list box called multi-select, which is set to false. Now watch what I do here. So just in a couple lines of code, you can do this. So copy all. I'm going to rewrite the copy all. I'm going to say lbx data dot multi-select is equal to true. lbx data dot select all. Select everything in lbx. And then lbx data dot copy selection to lbx final. And then just to set it back, I'm going to set the multi-select back to false, so that you can't select multiple. If you want to select multiple, you can set that to true, set it to false. So first say we are allowed to select multiple options, select everything, copy everything that is selected, and then set it back to false. That's how easy it is to do a copy all. Boom. There we go. And then I can just do this in the move all. I'm just going to paste this here, but instead of copy selection, we're going to move selection. That's that easy. Move all, boom. There we go. So there we go. Those little tricky, quick ways of doing it. So hopefully you found this useful. We've got another video on comment boxes, which is very similar. Go have a look at that one. For other videos on Delphi, go to our YouTube channel, click on that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. Go to our playlist, and you'll find lots of topics that can help you both with RT and with CAT and with Delphi. And remember, don't do it the long way. Do it the Mr. Long way.